Okay, YouTube viewers, I got the car back down and I have my string laid out. Now, some of you may be wondering, why in the world do you have a string laid out? Well, I'll tell you here in a second. First thing to know is that you can tie the string anywhere just so long as it's behind the tire, behind in this direction, so you're pulling, against it. So I've tied it to a control arm and to the frame over here. Now, what this will do for you is it'll create a straight edge effect. Basically, when a car is aligned, that's what's done, is a sensor is clamped to this wheel, and a sensor is clamped to this wheel, and they're lined up. When they're lined up, then they'll tell you. And so that would be a four-wheel alignment. What we're doing here is just a simple two-wheel alignment. I suppose you could do a four-wheel alignment, but we're not going to. Now, the thing to remember here, though, is that some cars are actually designed with a wider rear track than front track. So on cars like that, and I don't know for sure which ones they are, but on cars like that, this will not work. So what we're going to do here, first thing we did is we straightened out the steering wheel all the way straight. So like you're going down the road, and then we tied up the string. Now what we want to do first is we're going to look for any gap between the string and the tire. So there's no gap there, and there better not be gap there. You got some major issues. But so you look for a gap there and a gap here. And you can see there's a gap. Now what that tells you is that the back side of that tire is cocked this way a little bit, because it's going to be holding the string out away from this tire here. So now the very first thing we got to do is we got to get that string so that it's perfectly parallel. And what that tells you is that I'm having troubles with my air ride here. You got to have the car at ride height when you're doing this, because the tires will tend to camber in or out if the suspension's at all tweaked, because as the tire moves up, there's going to be a radius of sorts, whereas it moves down, there's going to be same thing, so you won't get a true reading if your car is not at ride height while you're doing this. So what we're going to do is, the reason I left those jam nuts undone is because I have to get underneath here, and I don't know if you'll be able to see what I'm doing really, but I'm going to try and show you. Got the bar that your tie rod screwed onto, and that bar, you will actually turn that bar. So I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to get the tire to exactly parallel. You may need a pliers for this, and then we'll show you what I got. Okay, so we got it all set up. Now it's important to remember while you are getting your tires lined up to keep turning your wheel side to side, and what that does, it just kind of sets up your suspension, and always bring it back to center. If you've got a car with power steering, make sure that you start it up, because it'll pump up the rack and equalize pressure, anything that you've taken or given away, by undoing or doing one of the rods. And it'll make it all work better. So as you can see, we got this tire, so it's just barely touching the string, and the gap has gone away here. So then we've done the same with this side, and the gap, this tire is just barely, actually this tire is just a touch in. I'll have to adjust that a little more. But what we're going to do now is, you don't want your tires straight ahead. You actually want your front tires to toe in just a little bit. Now what that'll do is it'll cause the car to track better. And if I can find a pen here, I'll draw it on a piece of paper and I'll be able to show you better. So say you've got a car with four wheels. Now we should be able to see. Okay, you got a tire here, tire here, tire here, and a tire here. Now if these tires are going straight ahead, the car is going to have a tendency to wander. The reason for that is because there's nothing holding that car into line. Now if you take these tires and say you've got the car that's aligned properly, you got this tire here, this tire here, this tire here, and this tire here. Now these tires are always pointing towards the center, and it's going to pull that car straight forward. It's going to cause that car to track very nicely because there's no play. It's always pulling towards the center, the exact center of the car. Now, obviously this is an exaggerated drawing, but usually cars, well, newer cars are expressed in a number of degrees, like 0.5 degrees of toe-in. Now, when they refer to that toe-in, what they're talking about is the number of degrees that this tire is from 90 degrees. So you've got an X amount of degrees toe in. Now on older cars you actually had what you called, I forget what it's called, but you had a measurement form of toe in. Now it was expressed as an 1/8 inch or 3/32 or whatever it happened to be on a given car. Now, since I don't have exact specs for this car, and it would be expressed in degrees, and I do not have an alignment tool, what I'm actually going to do is set this car to a pretty generic number that'll cause it to track straight. That being an 1/8 inch of toe. An 1/8 inch of toe just means that this tire is toed in 1/8 of an inch, and that'll be enough to track the car towards center. So we're going to set this tire to an 1/8 toe in, and then we'll show you what we got when we're done. Basically, okay, sorry, I didn't really explain myself. The way we're going to do that with this string is we're going to measure right here. Now when that tire, that front tire, comes out 1/8 of an inch, this string will also be 1/8 of an inch away from this side of the tire. So that's how you will measure your toe in. And Molly's meowing again. So we're going to get that done, and then I'll show you what we got when we're done. Well, there we go. We got her toed in 1/8 of an inch. And I'm sure somebody is going to correct me, but I have to correct myself before they do. An 1/8 inch of toe actually does not refer to an 1/8 inch on either wheel. It refers to an 1/8 inch total, which would equate to a 1/16 inch each. So an 1/8 inch of toe total will be the distance in difference between the back of the tire and the front of the tire. So got to correct myself there. Molly's messing up my measurements, but you can see we got a difference here. And we've got a difference here. So that's kind of cool. This is, I must stress, not a replacement for a conventional alignment. This does not do the same thing. You cannot adjust camber this way, and you cannot get an exact laser correct alignment in this method. But what it is intended to do is, in a pinch, if a guy is in your shop and you want to do an alignment, you're way off, or you get a car in that's just undrivable, or if you've got a lot of wander, or say you go to a tire shop and they tell you that they can't align it because of bad tie rods and you don't have the money for tie rods. I've been in all of these situations. This will work. And it's simple and effective, and even if you, generally speaking, will end up with a little bit more toe in than is necessary, it's a whole lot better to have some rub on your tires than it is to go flying off the road because you're wandering all over the place, especially in icy roads. So, you know, I will get this car in to get an alignment. Not going to do it right now, just don't have the time to drop it off and get it done. But so this will tide me over until then. So yeah, you guys can try this at home and see what you think. And yeah, till next time. we're done.